Well, which it could, I suppose, still.
So this version hasn't even done the anniversary update.
I don't think so.
That's what's the Creators Studio, Creators Edition.
Yeah, mine actually at home hasn't done that update yet.
Is it just me or the Windows updates way less frequent than they used to be?
Was it killing things?
Now instead of one.
Well, I should put last one.
Oh, that's why I haven't seen it.
If you get it downloaded, that's the problem, because you keep trying to put the install, and the install breaks, 99%, and then you have to uninstall and undo it, so it's site crap.
What's that on?
The last Windows update. I think that there are a lot of Windows updates. If you look, I mean, if I look at my history, there's a lot of them that are occurring kind of in the background.
Okay, yeah, because I've noticed that
But they're actually doing big updates more frequently, which is
What update are you talking about? That breaks?
the creator.
Oh, the creator update?
Yeah, I'm 17.
Yeah, I got
And
that.
I recommend it, you get on, so.
Mine worked no problem.
You're lucky.
All right, are we sort of ready?
Oh yeah, the visuals, I noticed that it has that.
It's so much better than using the command line.
I'm sure anything else.
Although it'd probably be really good to learn to use the command line on that.
What's that?
Although it'd be good to learn the command line on that. Just because typically if you're using Node, you're going to do it on Linux.
Okay. It was just
You can
like
do Node
updating
on
the
Visual Studio?
Yeah, Visual Studio has Node. Visual Studio has Python.
it's just updating
Yeah.
the
For
package JSON.
2015.
Yeah, haven't added it back into the
I
2017.
just wish they would come with bundled with like PHP skills.
It does.
This is a separate one. It's not through Microsoft, but it's a third-party entity.
Yes, but you have to pay for it.
No,
No.
actually, I'll find it because I found a free one that you can add on to it, and it basically you can start a whole new project with it, and as template.
I know there's a Visual Studio PHP. There's a Visual Studio Python, but you do have to have the two. I have
Yeah,
both.
the one from Microsoft.
They keep promising they're going to restore it for the 27th.
Have you messed around with the Visual Studio Code?
Yeah.
The what?
Visual Studio Code?
I'm not sure which one that is.
It's a standalone.
Oh, no, I
It's like a
haven't.
souped up text editor that supports. You can add modules that'll add support, so you can do Java in it.
You can get Java to run in Visual Studio. 2015, yeah.
Although it was just updating the package JSON for dependencies is so much easier through Visual Studio than having to go through the command line.
Yeah, although I'm getting better at that. And once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad.
I just like
Go
having
ahead.
it all laid out in front of me where I can see everything and edit it all in one line. Instead
No,
of having
I
to
like
go
Visual
back.
Studio as an editor. Visual Studio is one of my favorite programs in the world.
I'm sure.
But the world is moving to Linux, so.
I'm sure if you sleep on a bed of nails for long enough, you'll get a good night's rest eventually.
The command line is actually really efficient. You just have to know what you're doing. That's the problem.
In 220, we started writing MySQL. We were using MySQL. We initially started doing the SQL queries out of the command line. And after about an hour, I'm like, yeah, where's Workbench?
Yeah, although, I mean, when I first started computing, it was just the DOS command line.
Oh, yes, me too. I remember DOS.
And, you know, as I said, I got really good at it. So, and I'm getting better at the Linux command line. As I said, everything's moving to Linux. So.
At least if you're on the server.
Not only on the server, well, pretty much any kind of cloud stuff, you know. Database stuff, a lot of it's on the command line. On the
visual.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble for a lot of this stuff is that GUIs like this take up a lot of processing time. So it's more efficient for your use of your processor.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at. Isn't that like a free trial that you have to pay?
I'm still trying to find it. This is the one I downloaded though. But but the other page for DevSense I found it to say 30-day trial included. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't remember having a 30-day trial involved with my download though.
Weird. I wonder if that's like just more than like the past month or so.
Unless they just don't have it on the download page.
Yeah, I might look at that too, because I saw some support for PHP from Visual Studio, and I think it was even Microsoft support.
Yeah, there is something through their marketplace. That
Visual
was like $60.
Oh,
But there was another one I found that was free.
Visual
so
Studio Code supports it.
so let me talk just a little bit about what these set operators do. You guys remember, for me, it was like high school algebra, but Venn diagrams and relationships. So these are basically that. The set operators basically show, do I have a pen anywhere? Does this one work? So if you think about two circles like this, union is everything in both circles, right? So union, which we're going to do, will return everything in both circles. Those circles, when you think, databases are actually constructed around set there, if that makes any sense.
In the book.
Yeah. Intersection, right, is where the two sets link. And then there's, what's the third one? The actual name of it, I'm trying to remember. What would be exclusion? Things that are not part of it.
I'm on the 3 rules right now, so.
Okay. Intersection, union. I've been trying to think of the word for the one it means neither, or it's not in either. All the things are in neither side.
It's not,
What? I'll think of it, or I'll look it up real quick. So as I said, one of the things I like to do before class is review what I'm going to do, which I had 0 time to do today. So we'll do union first, and by the time I get to it, we'll get to the other one. But basically, there are operators that will give you the union, the intersection, and the whatever the third one is, which is the things that are neither union nor intersect. Actually, it's kind of like a outer join, the last one.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So let's do a union, and this is going to be a little bit weird because one of the things about a union is you have to join like to like. So I'm going to bring things from Community Assist and from Metro Alt. So in Community Assist, under tables, we have person, right? So and we have columns. And we have like the first name, last name, email. And in Metro Alt, we have employee. And under employee, there's also fields like, if it will open, first name, last name, and there's an email in there. So we're just going to get those 3 things from each. So this is the first time we will have done a query that crosses databases. Does that make sense? It's going to use 2 different databases.
That's what a union is?
Not necessarily. It could be 2 tables in the same database if they have a similar structure, right? Because one of the things is you can't just join willy-nilly everything. You basically need to like combine a last name with the last name, a first name with the first name. I mean, you have to join like to like. Otherwise, what you have is an incoherent mess. It might actually do it if they're the same data type, but you could end up with just something that means nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do select person, last name, person first name, and we could alias these if we want, but I won't. Person email. All right, from person, and I'm in master, so I'm going to do use community assist. And I'm going to run that. All right, so from person. And then I'm going to do union, and I'm going to do another select. So I'm going to select employee last name, employee first name, and employee email. Now this is the part, so from, and we have to say this from a different database. So from metro alt dot dbo dot employee. Okay, so metro alt is the database. DBO, do you remember what that is?
Database object.
Database owner, actually. It's the schema.
I don't appreciate that.
So it's a metro alt, the schema, whatever the schema is, and the DBO is the default database owner, and then the table. So you're basically saying we're going to query another database. Now notice again, these match, and there's the union there. So we should get some 650 rows or so. 629. Okay.
I got 600.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay.
It depends on what you've added and subtracted and done over time. But notice, so they all have the field names of the first table. So if you wanted to alias those, you could make it more generic. But we have, now there's a lot of atoms there, and that's quite possible. Notice they all have different first names, right? And they have, we all have their emails, and if they're from Metro Alt. The reason why there's so many of these names, not that it matters, is that when I made the database, I made an array of like 100 last names, and I made an array of like 100 first names, and then I just randomly matched them when I made people. It's one of those loops that probably took forever, right? So, does that make sense for a union though? I actually think the union assignment is almost identical to this, but I can't think of another union to make.
Oh, okay, so that's what you mean by you have to use the fully qualified.
Right, this is the fully qualified from, right? Now you could go even farther in that you could give the name of the server dot, right? If you were crossing servers, but we're not crossing servers, just databases.
That would go in front of community assist.
It would actually, the server name would go, because this is the one that's on, if we were,
Oh, in front of Metro.
right. And the server name, if it's localhost, is the same as your computer name. So,
Yeah, I could get that.
oh, this is SQL Express. So
What is the server?
I think it'd be SQL Express. I'm not sure. That's actually,
SQL Express dot? Right up there at the top where it says local?
yeah. No, typically, like where this has dot / SQL Express, the name of it would be whatever comes before this.
Oh,
The computer name.
the computer name?
Yeah.
The computer name dot SQL Express.
Press dot Metro
Metro
Alt. Yeah.
Would that be a good idea to just put those in anyways?
No, why? If they're on the same server, it's not often you cross servers, but you could.
And it would already be ready to go.
Yeah. The one time you might cross servers is like if human resources was on one server and your point of sale was on another and you needed to get some of the employee information across or something.
Oh, employee login. into
Yeah,
a terminal.
Or,
Sales
yeah,
something.
right. And you wouldn't need their entire thing, you just need it. Although you might just have a table that's local too. But anyway, you can cross servers and databases. So that's Union. I'm going to do a little bit different here. It'll be similar. I'm going to like take the first part here. I'm going to add a couple of fields here, which means we have to do a join. I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to do person, address, city. Actually, before I do that, so employee has city in it, right? Not employee. I want to go to Metro Alt. That is Metro Alt. That's employee position. Yeah, employee city. So person, address, city. So from person, P, inner join person address. So, and then I'm going to do on, so let's make this PA. On P dot person key equals PA dot person key. So I'm hoping by the end of this, you guys will be so used to these joins that they'll be second nature. First I'm going to do a union just to show you that this will work, and then I'll show you the intersection. So I'm going to again do basically this. So I just copied that, except I'm going to add person, or not in person, employee city. And then when I run that, so the union gives me everybody, in what city they're in, right? But I want to do an intersection. I just wanted to set that up. So the union could have included those. I just want to show you. You can do whatever you need to do on either side of the joint, the union to get all the fields. But again, it has to kind of match last name. But they have to be the same kinds of fields. Questions on that one before? I mean, that was just the reason I did this is I want to do an intersection, and the intersection I'm going to see is which cities are in both, right? We could with just the city, which might be actually more instructive. I don't know.
Should I have gotten the same results as that previous query we did?
So yeah, except that the cities would be, yeah. So I'm going to try a couple of versions of this. Going to do the same thing. And I'm going to change this to intersection. Actually, that's not intersect. Is that right? Nothing intersects. What is the key word that I want? I thought it was intersection.
Intersect.
That's what I thought, but why is it not giving me?
Select, intersect, select. No comment. And there's a, yeah,
So when did I do this last?
February 9th, 2017.
Thank you. So intersect. So I only did city there, but it should still, there are places, you know why it isn't intersecting? I know why. All right, so I'm going to delete everything except city. And for that, we just need from And then I'll get rid of the on. And then I'm just going to do city. The reason is it never actually, the intersection has to be an exact match. The employee isn't going to match. Does that make sense? The employees will be unique in the different tables. So there's no actual intersection of the employee names, but there should be for the city. And so Bellevue, Kent, and Seattle are the same. They exist in both. Does that make sense? The trouble with the employees is that they were unique in each set, and so there was no intersection. But the city isn't, and so there is an intersection around the city. Now it seems to me, let me flip this, because I think that the intersect is that which cities in here are the same as up here.
Yeah.
So if I flip that, it'll be which cities, let's flip it, I'll show you.
Are they both in person address?
No, this one's in employee, right?
So you'd have to change the,
So what I would do is I would put this one first, and then do intersect, and then I would do this one. So we do the top one first, and I think what you will find is that that's the same. So there isn't any difference when I flip it, which makes sense. The intersection.
well, it says employee sitting now with there instead of.
Yeah, that's just because I moved that up there. Whatever is the first field name is what the field name is. So there's no difference in that one. There is a difference in the other one. And this one, except, that's the word. So I'm going to do this one again. But I'm going to change this to except. So except is the exclusion one. And it's a bigger list. New York, Puyallup, Redmond, and Shoreline are in person address, but they're not in Metro Alt. Does that make sense? And 2 blank ones.
Oh, okay. I was like, what's the null?
So the null is because at some point we didn't enter the city, and the blank one is because it must have entered sometimes from the forms, from the web forms, it enters an empty string rather than a null, which is a pain. I need to fix that actually. So these two are not, there's no nulls and empties in the other one. This one, if we flip it, will have different results. Because this is kind of like it's not really an outer, that's kind of like an outer join between these two things. And I'll do this as except.
So intersections are like unions, but they only return distinct results as opposed to just.
No, they're not like unions. They're the opposite of a union in a way. They're what isn't. What is there? So intersect returns this part. The parts of both of them share.
What is?
Right?
What is?
Yeah. Now the except basically whatever the top one was is it does the ones over here that are not over here. Right? So whatever is not part of this one, so it's not part of the intersection. So except takes you the part that doesn't belong. But it does it kind of a left-right table, the first table, whatever one is, when you have it first, whatever one is not in the second one. Notice this time it only returned Tukwila. So the only city in employee city that is not in person address city is Tukwila.
Okay, so that's what they accept.
Yeah, it's a lot like an outer join. It's returning the things that are not in the other. Whereas the intersect is the one that's in both. And the union just combines both. Again, sort of like high school algebra, which for me was, I was trying to count the years, at least 45 years ago.
So could you scroll down to see that accept?
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're both, so they're just literally the same as the other, except the word accept. These can be useful sometimes. They can, particularly the union. Now, the union can be used like if you need to combine tables, as long as their structure is similar, you could do that. And it doesn't by itself write it to anything, but you could do a union as an insert into a new table. Does that make sense? Remember last time we did I don't think I showed you, but an insert into a table with a select. A union would work for that. So questions on those operators? The other thing to know, these don't work in SQL Server prior, Union does, but the others don't work in SQL Server prior to about 2012.
Oh, really?
They're brand new for SQL Server. Oracle's had them for decades, but
MySQL has them.
I have no idea if MySQL has them, actually. They are ANSI standard, but so it might. I haven't tried it. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting. I'll try them in MySQL and see. All right, so I'm going to go to the other thing, which is commands that modify the actual data. One of them we've kind of looked at a little bit is insert, and I'll do just a basic. This is how the garbage gets into the database too. Insert into, what do we want to insert into? Let's just do insert into person, I guess. Now, I'm not going to insert into every field in person. One of the neat things you can do with the insert, though, is so if I go to Metro Alt and I do columns on person, see how I select columns over here? Again, I'm not going to do all of them, but it's kind of neat. You can just drag it and you'll have all the fields. Just drag the column in there and it'll give you all. So when you insert, you don't want the key because that's going to be auto-generated. I'm not going to do the password because I don't want to hash it right now. Although I could, if you really want to. I'm not going to do that. So what I did, if you grab the columns under the table and drag it, actually I want to get down a row. So I'm just going to drag the columns. It gives me all the columns listed with comments in between them already. So it's a lot easier than typing.
This is Community Assist.
Yeah, I did this for Community Assist. But again, the danger with that is that I really don't want to insert into all the fields. So basically, I just want person last name, person first name, person email, person entry date. I could do, so the next word is usually values, and it's values even if you're only going to enter one thing. It's always a plural. So I'm going to insert into these fields the values. And then what I do is I have to provide a value for each of these things. So we need a last name. I've probably got a Doe.
Johnson.
There's probably several Johnsons, but we can do a Johnson. So the first name, how about Rupert? I've never known a Rupert, but they exist. So I'm going to do RJ at what are they calling Hotmail now? It's Outlook. The reason I want to do that is I'm pretty sure I never typed it. And one of the things about emails is they have to be unique in here. And then the entry date, I'm just going to do get date. So it'll just put in the current date.
And that doesn't have to be in quotations.
No, in fact, if it is, it won't work. So this is our person, and this is the normal look of an insert. Notice one row is affected. If I do a quick select star from person and go to the bottom, there will be a Rupert Johnson. Notice no password and no person pass key. I want to show a variant of this.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
Since you're using both databases, did you have to use MetroAlt?
No, because we've always been in the context of MetroAlt or Community Assist. This didn't actually change the context, and it wouldn't be necessary if we were in MetroAlt. It's only because we're in Community Assist that I have to do that, right? So it doesn't change the context. That's a good question, though. So I'm going to do another insert into person. I just want to show you that you can insert several people at once. So I'm just going to copy that. With the trouble is this, we have to think of more than one name. Values.
Lexington.
Okay.
First name Mark.
Okay. Do you know a Mark Lexington?
That was my registered alias when I worked in collections.
Email, so I'll just do marklex@gmail.
You can always do Lex Mark.
Yeah, I know. I thought of that. I also thought of Luther, Mark, Lex Luthor there, but that's all right. And then get date. I'm only going to do a couple of these, but you can do a comma here and just start another parentheses. And so actually, let's do it backwards. We might as well get Harrison Ford in here. And you can keep adding these, right, with a comma after each one for as many rows as you need to enter. A couple of things, typically when you're actually doing these inserts, rather than write it like this, they come in through a form, and rather than have values here, you have variables, right, that are coming from the form. But this is sort of the syntax, and you can add as many as you want as you go down. I'm going to show you a
For
little.
this purpose, you added those names.
I added them. So when I do this, there's going to be 2 rows affected. And I have a bunch of garbage names at the end, right? Because they don't have passwords. But so, and I may delete most of these people at the end just to show you how to delete. There are some problems. So let's say if we wanted to insert a new donor, all right, what would you have to do? One of the things is you can insert into individual tables, but typically you're going to have to insert into multiple different tables. Did you need something? I can wait.
No.
Okay. So you would need to insert into person, right? Not with an E on it. I am going to, so let's, what do we want? One, well, first of all, I'm going to get this time I'm going to bring in all of these. And I'm just not going to do the person key. I will show you how you can encrypt it or do the hash. So I'm just breaking that so it's easier to see on the screen. And I'm going to do values, and I just need a person's name again. It's really hard to make up lots of people's names.
I've just been inserting characters from Game of Thrones.
No, well, I've never watched the Game of Thrones. So. We could do, anybody recognize this name?
American Gods.
Yep.
Slow television show. Although from what I understand, his books don't move entirely quickly either.
No, but I enjoyed them.
What show?
American Gods, based on Neil Gaiman's novel. It's actually really good. So we need a.
What's the difference between person password and person password C?
I'll show you. So one of this is for like best practices. So for password, I am going to actually I'm going to do them up here. So I'm going to make this, there's a couple of functions that are pre-written that I wrote at one point. So I'm going to go into the functions. So it's programmability, functions, scalar valued functions, and there's get seed. So I'm going to say fx, or dbo, fx get seed. Okay, and then I'm going to declare at password var binary 500 equals, and this is a little bit dubious, but I'm going to say it's equal to dbo.fx hash password. So at seed, and then the passwords here are always last name pass. I'm going to do moon pass. Okay. And then down here, I can do person password is at password. And the person enters date is still get date. And then, so at seed. So going to be happy with that. Oh, it's because I'm missing a comma. Now I'm going to do a couple of other things. because if you're inserting a person, you also need to insert their address. So I'm going to insert into person. I'm not running that yet. Person address. And I'm going to go get the fields for person address. And I'm going to get rid of the key. And I'm just going to break this down a little bit just for readability. So we can make up, this can be left null, apartment doesn't have to be there. That one I accidentally broke the line at the wrong place. Okay, so I'm going to do values. And I'm going to do, so the address will be just like, I don't know, 1010 South Street. So then we need the city, which, where did it, just Seattle? So the state, and the zip, which will be, I have no idea, 98000. And the person key, this is where, when you're doing these kinds of things, you need the person key as a foreign key. And this one hasn't been inserted yet. So how do you know what the person key is? What? No, I mean, it's going to be a number, right? It's a number that's generated when it's an auto number. But there is actually a built-in function. If and only if the key is a auto number. This won't work if it's something you provide. So I'm going to just say ident current. I'm going to do the table name, which will be person. And what this gives is the last auto number generated in that table, right? So we're going to process this. It'll write that, and then it'll process this, and it'll get the very last auto number produced in the person table. So it'll just bring you, this won't work if you're trying to match it to somebody that's further up in the list. It's only the very last number that's been created.
That'll be the last employee that's been added.
The last key that's been added. Now I did this stuff is just extra to get the password in there. So these are they're not built-in functions, the functions I wrote. But so I'm going to run this all the way down here to there. So it says 2 rows are affected. So let's do person first. Select star from person. And the very last person is Shadow Moon, right? And the key is 133. It might be different on yours. Notice the hash did happen this time.
Oh, I see.
And then I'm going to do person address. And so we want to look for the person address for, it should be the last one there, but it should have the key 133. So the person key at the bottom here, notice there's 133, so I did that. And South Street, Seattle, Washington, etc. So the part I really wanted to show you, the function part is not that important right now, is this ident current. Because if you're, it's often the case that you have to insert several tables at once that are related to each other, and you need to be able to get that key. The only way to get the key out, if you don't do this, is to insert, go to the table, select, find the last row, right? And then get the value from that, and then put that number in here. This is a lot easier.
So in the instance of where we're doing like thousands of rows. This is one of the instances though where it doesn't do it line by line. It takes in context of everything that you put in there for the query. And that's why it's important.
Well, I mean, it's just if you're doing, so I'm inserting a new customer. There's actually another one table that would be involved here,
Okay.
right? So it's a 3-table insert, just for one customer. There's, I only did 2 of them, but there's the person address, and the contact table, right? So you have to do all 3 of those to get a full insert for a new person. Right, 3 different tables. So they're all related by the person key. So you need to make sure that's consistent across the way, or the address won't belong to that person. Now you could try max person key, and it might work, right? So you get the highest person key.
Unless somebody can insert a higher number lower previous to that, right?
Well, so yeah, I mean, typically with SQL Server in auto numbers, it doesn't allow you to insert into that field.
So, but I
But
mean,
MySQL does allow it.
it's not, they're auto-generated, so there's going to be a date associated with date time associated with each one that's generated? Or
Not,
is it just?
it's just a number. I mean, literally, this is what it's giving you. Right, 113, 114, 115. It's just auto numbering. It's just counting.
Identity current, so that's going to give
So that tells you the top. So if you go back to
the
person,
highest value.
if you go back to person, so it's going to say the last value created there. Right, the last. This is an identity, right? The last identity that was created. Auto number. The last auto number created.
But I'm getting confused. The last or the highest?
Probably the highest, but it's actually just taking the last. If by some weirdness the last number was less, it would still go with the last number.
I got an error with my
Could you go back up so?
Sure, where do you need?
Right there. Thank you.
Okay.
I need a convert function apparently for bar chart of a binary.
So when you made your yeah, what are those like? This is my I'll not put password in quotes. Oh, I see. I'll not put C. If you put these in quotes, it takes them as literal strings rather than variable names.
Must declare a scale variable and password.
So you have to run those 2 lines with it. Oh. Anyone else need more time on this? I will post, of course, and then this part isn't super important to the assignment. I just wanted to show you how you get the hash if you want. Now the hash, I mean, I can show you the internal of the function if you want. There's actually a function SQL Server does called hash bytes that takes a character type and hashes it. And then you have to say what kind of hash you want to use, what the current protocol is for hash.
Is it like a SHA-2 or
No, it was like SHA-212,
256
256.
or 512 or most HMAX is like either 256 or hopefully it doesn't use a SHA-1 or MD5 because those are also
So I'm going to script the function, create to. So it uses SHA-12, 512, yeah. That's the function that hashes things. And it combines it, it concatenates it with that seed. It's a random number, integer, it turns it into a string, it concatenates it, and then it hashes the whole, so that you can't do a dictionary search, dictionary attack. Dictionary attacks just go through a dictionary and try to match every word in the dictionary with your password. They
Which
just,
is really easy to do if your password is like your pet's name plus the year you were born.
well, the year could screw it up, because I mean, it literally is just going to look at the match it to a dictionary word. But it doesn't work on a lot of them, but it works on enough.
If your
Yeah.
password's like 20 case
Which one? Which part do you need to see? Do you have an error or what? So maybe we start it and close out here.
I was trying to do that.
Now, if you look at that, those fields are. So it might be, I didn't do it originally. I'll go and show you. So in this one, I didn't put the password or anything in these. I just did it for the one after. So these ones just have, all three of these just have nulls for passwords. I made it so the password wasn't required for these, just for this reason, just to show it in class. So that password seed, one of the errors is that if you're going to include those, then they need to be in the list up here. So I'm trying to think if there's anything more I want to say about inserts. You guys saw the select insert, right? Where you can select into a table. It was in the subquery thing. What do you need to see there? Or you just okay. All right. I think that's enough for inserts for right now. Let's do an update. Unless you guys have, do you have any questions on inserts? Okay. So inserts add new data, right? So updates, what do they do?
It's similar to an insert, but instead of putting new data into a blank record, you're adding updating something in an existing record.
Right, you're editing or changing an existing record. Right, so I'm going to change, let's go up to the top so we can see it easily. I'm going to change Jay's first name to Jason. So let's do set person first name equals Jason, where person key equals 1. And it's really crucial that you have this where there. So I'm going to do, and it says one row affected. And if I select from person, it's now Jason Anderson. Okay, so it changes in the existing record. This is, I think, though, the single most dangerous statement in SQL.
Will it run without a where statement?
Yes, it will. Now I'm going to do that, but I'm going to show you. If you're going to do this, do exactly what I do. Otherwise, you're going to have to reload the database. So I'm going to do begin tran. Did I guys show you this before?
Yes.
So begin tran, but don't just write it. It's really crucial that you run it. Okay. So that means we're beginning a transaction. It's locked. So I am going to, update person. And I'm going to set person last name. I always like to use Smith, mostly because of the really ridiculous last Matrix movie where everyone becomes Smith. And I'm not going to put a where clause. What do you think happens?
Everybody's last name is Smith.
Everybody's last name is Smith. So let's do a select star from person. Notice it had 133 rows updated.
Oh, would that? Yeah, that would be anybody, wouldn't it? And even if there was nulls in there.
So I just screwed up with that. Okay, so
It's a lot of Smiths.
yes, it's a lot of Smiths. Now, if I had not done the begin tran, and I'm going to roll it back here in a moment. Say you had 100,000 people or 200,000 people in here, they would all be Smith. That's a pretty big disaster. And there's no undo if you haven't done the begin tran. So I will undo it with luck. I'm going to do roll back tran. And then when I do that, they're back. But again, you can't do that without, unless you do these explicit transactions. The bad thing about them, if you're doing them raw like this, is that it locks the database. It locks the table. Right? So no one else can access that table while you're in it.
Yeah, you should change that so it's more, there's more settings to it than just update and then the name. Switches, I guess.
Yeah, there are. So if you get really subtle, but it's usually not for this, you can set levels of locks. So you can lock the table, you can lock the whole database, you can lock the table, you can lock like a set of about 8 rows, or you can lock a single row. But, yeah.
On the person password, why does it say 0 times the digest?
It's just telling it that it's a hex.
Okay.
That's just sort of the symbol that it's like. Actually, is it hex or octal? I'm not sure. It's a hash anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be hex. I was just looking at the highest letters. So with an octal, there wouldn't be any letters, actually, because you can stop before 9.
So that's base 8.
Yes. This is utterly irrelevant, but I once watched or played a game, Rama. It's based on the Arthur C. Clarke novel. And one of the parts of the game is you went into this thing, you were exploring an alien spaceship. But to get further, you had to solve some math problems. You had to solve them in decimal, octal, and hex. Which wasn't as hard as it sounded because
Which one was that? I think I read the Ramas.
it was Rama. Well, so it was the
The
game
first one?
Rama.
Oh,
So and it was based on the second novel.
Rama 2.
Yeah. Those are good novels, actually. So anyway, and it was a pretty good game, actually. Primitive by today's standards, but the Microsoft calculator does hex and octal, so it wasn't that hard.
Oh, yeah, the Windows 10 calculator is considerably more robust.
So the only other thing I want to show,
That'd be cheap, wouldn't it? You can't bring a calculator. It'd be like bringing a dictionary to.
I don't know if I could have done it without the.
Actually, I have friends who do bring dictionaries to games of Scrabble,
Oh,
but that's only because if they call you out,
then somebody has to check it. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, one dictionary.
So I'm going to modify this a little. Who do we want to turn to a smith? There are smiths in here, I'm sure. Actually, let's take one of the people we just added.
What was the last name, Johnson?
Yeah, let's
Who's the
change
word
Rupert
clock?
Johnson to Rupert Smith. So what is, that's 130. So and I'll change the first name too. I just want to, or maybe we'll change the email. I just want to show you how to change more than one field. So let's, instead of RJ, let's make it RS. So set person email equals, now that it's Smith, we'll do RS at outlook.com.
Too many O's.
Yeah, Outlook. All right, so did I begin the trend? Oh, and I do need a where. It's a good thing I began the trend. Where person key equals 130. Now, one of the things about using the where clause, you want to be really careful that you're isolating it just on the place, where you want. Like I could say where first name equals Rupert, but if there were any other Rupert, it would also change it. I doubt if there's any other Rupert, but there could be. And then, so you want to be as precise as possible, and the key is probably the best. So I'm going to execute that one row. So if you want to keep your change, you can do commit tran. And once you've committed it, it's actually written. When you're in the transaction process, it's actually being held in the temp database until such point as you commit it or roll it back. When you do this without these explicit trans, everything is a transaction. So there's implicitly a tran and a commit. But it's literally takes nanoseconds usually. So now that I've committed it, if we look at the person 130, so just go down, I could actually just look. It's now Rupert Smith with an RS Outlook.
Zero rows.
Why doesn't,
Oh, you could change his last name to Giles.
I could, yeah.
when you're updating person and setting the new last name and
Yeah.
first email, if you punch in the wrong person key, why isn't it throwing errors? They don't checks and balances.
There isn't any. Well, for one, how would it know if it's the wrong person key?
Yeah. The reason I'm thinking is because if you select something, if you jump down to the from, whatever database, if they go back up, it's an auto-filling. Just wondering why it didn't.
Well, so one thing, it doesn't know what person you're talking about until you do this. It really has no idea.
No idea.
And there's no way to tell it. The other thing is sometimes you do want to update everything. So let's do one of the examples like that is if you wanted to go through inventory and just increase all of your prices by 5%, right? So you could just go through and you could blanket update everything to be the price times 5%. There is, I'm going to show you, there's a thing, I'm going to do it as select grant type. So I'm going to select star from grant type. So this works best with a numeric field. So like there's a maximum on here. Let's say you wanted to increase your maximum by, I don't know, 5–10%. So I could say, do I want to keep the changes? Does it matter? I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm doing in the future where it matters. I don't think so.
Future's overrated.
Yeah.
I'm recording it.
So I'm going to do update grant type. And I'm going to set grant type maximum equals grant type maximum times 1.05. That'll increase it by 5%, right? And then I'm just going to, we'll do the same thing with grant type lifetime maximum equals grant type lifetime maximum. Do we want it to 5% or are we going to increase it more?
Things are getting expensive. Let's do it by a little bit more. 1.1.
So 10. All right. So if I do that, remember the top one is 1,200, just so you have a reference. So 13 rows were affected, and now it's 210 and 1,100, right? So everything. I mean, one of the reasons why it doesn't require that you have a criteria is that sometimes you want to do a blanket up there. Yeah. But it is dangerous. These are really dangerous. So one of the things that I would suggest, although this isn't, we will get there, but not today, is that when you have a user, you don't let them update things, except through a stored procedure where you can control how it performs. So that if there isn't a criteria, it just doesn't run, basically.
So if somebody goes into their profile and updates their email address, that's done through a stored procedure.
It's probably done through a stored procedure.
Okay.
Because you want to limit it to where they can only do their own, right? And you want to make sure that their key. So a lot of times you don't let them enter their key. Typically you would get it from, the website would go get it from their session variable or something, right? And bring it in. So yeah, you would control that. You wouldn't allow them to have just straight update permissions. For one, if they had just update permissions, there are ways to do things like a SQL injection attack, you know, where you can do horrible things, like turn everyone to Smith or some obscene word.
Asterisk or equal sign?
It's an asterisk. This is for multiplication. It's probably hard to see there. So what we're doing is we're doing the grant type maximum. We're doing it times itself plus basically 5%. I don't think SQL has the plus equal or the times equal operator that programming languages do, most programming languages. I'm curious.
Have you learned about how to connect to the SQL injection and like that basic administration class?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. One, don't give your users permissions.
Right, yeah.
Don't ever have an open text box that isn't validated. Those are the two big rules. If you can go into an open text box. So the way that you would do in a form, this is not real relevant either, but I'm going to give you a time to work in Wednesday again. So a SQL injection attack, the typical, say this is a web form, a text box. So typically they do something like or 1 equals 1. right? So if you add an or clause to a query, right? So or 1 equals 1 is always true, and if one part of an or is true, it's all true. Then they do a semicolon in that statement. Write your own code. Drop table customer. Say this is all I'm doing. And then you do dash dash, which means everything after that's a comment. So basically what you've done is you've tried to make whatever condition is there is true. You did your malicious code, and then you commented out any remaining SQL. And so this will work, actually, if you've been stupid enough, 1, not to validate your text box, 2, to give them permissions where they could drop something, or update something, you know, or so you could just say update table customer, and you'd have to probably guess at the field, but last name is a very common, set last name equals Smith or something. I mean, you could, it works sometimes. It works often enough that people still try them. All right, so I've done the updates. We've actually, I think, only got one more, although I might look at the code just to see if I'm leaving anything out. Deletes are actually less dangerous, oops, not delete, than updates, because there's some things you can't delete. So if I try to delete delete from person, I'm going to try to delete the first person, where person key equals 1. What will happen?
Well, Mr. Anderson will go bye-bye.
No, he won't, because he's a parent to children. Right? There's a relational integrity problem if that's deleted. That means there would be an address that doesn't belong to a person.
Okay, so
There would be donations that don't belong to anybody.
So referential integrity is preventing you from.
Referential integrity is preventing you from deleting.
now, how do we incorporate it into the database, a cascading effect, which I know is a MySQL thing. I don't know if it's SQL Server.
You can do it. One thing I would say is never do that.
Just
If there is a thing called cascade delete,
Okay.
which means that it would delete all the children as well as the parent. All right. If you make a mistake, then you're screwed. So what I would do, one, either probably couch this inside of a stored procedure or something. That's one of the things. The other thing is that the way you have to do it is you have to go and delete the address first, delete the contact, delete all the donations. So you have to go through and remove anything that is constraining this, and then you can delete it. Now, this is only true on the parent table of a relationship, the primary key side. If I went to person address, it's not related to any other children. I could delete the whole thing like that. So it's still pretty dangerous. In fact, I will do that. I'm going to first begin tran, very important, and I'm going to run it. I have done begin tran and forgot to run it, and then they're just gone, right?
Do you have backups up here?
Well, there's always a script on that we took it from, right?
So, yeah.
So I'm going to delete from person address. All right. I'm not putting a criteria on there, so 135 rows are affected. So if I do select star from person address, you'll see that the whole table is empty. Okay, now I'm going to roll back my transaction, which is really, I mean, if I hadn't done that, then everything would have been gone. So there's no undo if you haven't done the begin transaction. There's zero undo. The only way you could undo this, and we would still be screwed because we haven't backed up our database, is you'd have to have a backup, you'd have to restore from backup, and you'd have to restore the log, right? And you would restore the log. One of the things you can do with restore the log, and we do this in the summer classes, you can restore up to a moment in time. So you would have to know what moment you made your horrible mistake, and then restore up to just before that moment. That's the only way. Now, and here we'd be utterly screwed, except we could get the script off of GitHub, because we haven't backed up our database, so there's no way to get that data back. And it gives you no warning. It's perfectly happy to delete everything.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, there's no are you sure's. Now, in a website or an application, again, you'd want to couch this into a stored procedure. You'd probably want to do some kind of are you sure? And you might actually still write it to a separate temp table so somebody else can inspect the deletions to decide if they're really to be deleted or not. I mean, you could do that kind of things with a program, but within SQL Server, there's no undo. And I don't think there's any undo in any database, MySQL or any of them, actually. Now, again, when you're doing your assignments, if you're worried about it, do the begin tran, end tran. That way you can always undo. But it's really crucial, not just write it, run it. If you just write begin tran and then do that, it's just gone. So I'm going to real quickly just I'm just going to create a table, and I want to show you one other thing you can do here, and then we're about done. What do I want to call this table? We got person. I'm just going to call this one people. I'm not going to leave it here for very long, but and then I'm just going to put last name. So I'm going to just do like last name in varchar 255. First name, I'm just going to put their email in there too. So I'm not giving it a primary key or anything. All right, so I'm going to create this table. And then I'm just going to insert into people. And then I'll do those 3 fields. I wonder, is it here? I'm lazy for typing.
Okay, typed it down.
Yeah. So I'm going to do, actually I'm not doing values. I'm going to do select person, first name, actually person, last name. Not that it matters. I'm just going to show you how to delete the whole table.
Yes.
Oh yes, Heron. All right, so I'm just going to put all the people into a table called people, just their things here. Select star from people. I just want to show it's there. Okay. I should have probably done a little bit more with the delete, but just to show you. So if you wanted, there's no relationships here, so I can delete anything I want, right? This table is fine. So if I wanted to delete Anderson, Jason, I could do just, first I'll just do a quick delete.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, delete from people where I'm going to do last name equals, actually, let's do our email because emails are unique. Not in this table doesn't enforce that, but the other table did. Equals, and I'm just going to copy this. Okay, so that's how you delete a single record, right? Or you could, if there's a group of records you want where the criteria matches the group, right? So that's a simple delete, and if I do this, that's gone. So now Zimmerman is these are the row numbers. I didn't put auto numbers in there. Something to know when you're deleting rows, that auto number never comes back. So if you delete person 3, it's going to go 1, 2, 4, and there will never be another 3. And that's fine. It drives some people nuts. They just want their numbers sequentially. You'll also find that occasionally the auto numbering, the index identity, suddenly skips 100 numbers. And I have no idea why it does that. But again, it doesn't matter. It's just an arbitrary number, right? It's just to give you a unique thing. So the other thing I wanted to show you, this is another type of delete. I'm going to say truncate table people. Now this is the equivalent of delete from people with no criteria. Truncate table is a way of removing all the records from the table. It's just another command for doing it. Again, it will not do it if there is referential relations, that we're doing conflict with. So if I were to do this on person, it wouldn't work. But truncate table, sometimes when you're manipulating and playing with things, you create a table and you just want to put temporary data in it. Sometimes you just want to clear it out really quick. Truncate table, yeah.
How is it different from drop?
So the table is still here, right? But that was actually the very next thing I was going to show you. If I drop the table, so when I drop the table, the actual the table is gone. This clears out all the data. This actually clears out, the table is no longer there. So if I refresh, there's no people table anymore. And again, I could not drop person, right? Because there's relationships involved, but I could drop table address just fine, or person address. I could drop person contact. Anything that is a child table, you could just drop it and it'll all be gone. But drop removes the actual table. This removes the data in the table. And delete also removes the data. It doesn't remove the physical object or the object table. I think that's all I need to cover, and I've taken most of your time. So we'll probably, again, Wednesday will be an open lab to work on this. And I've noticed most people, you're catching up slowly.
I'm almost done with the table expressions.
Yeah.
Just there was like so much other work for me.
You had a question?
Yeah, just on this, the first one on SetOperators.
Oh.
Is that right? What you're asking for? Because it's, what does that do?
No, I did it a little. So what did I say to you?
Says union between person and person address and community says and employees.
So I meant to do actually all the fields. So give the first name, last name, and the whole address. Like the city,
okay.
Street, state.
Everything in
Yeah.
person, everything in person.
Well, that matches. So there are some things that don't match. So then I wouldn't do those. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's where you kept showing you can just drag the whole table into the field.
Right. Though you might want to, so you have to make sure that for every table that's in, like I'm not sure I included department in employee, I might have, yeah. But if I didn't, if there's not a match, just
Don't.
use that field, yeah. The thing with the union is that both sides of the union, let's go way back up to the union, have to have the same basic structure. So there's, last name, first name, the fields have to match in number and they have to match in kind for a union. As I said, actually, this is almost exactly your
The statement.
the statement that you want. It's literally pretty much that assignment. Perhaps adding more than just the city, right? I was just going to look at this. I'll post this in a moment. I'm just. Oh,
That one that you already have in there is pretty damn close to.
Yeah, it's really close. It's really close to what your assignment would be. I didn't talk about these. I don't think I will today. I might do it next time.
The ones that says not in assignment or something.
Yeah, not on assignment. The ranking functions, Windows partition function. Those are a bit more complicated and weirder.
Yeah, that's another day, so.
They're kind of fun though, but yeah, I showed them just to show them, but I'll do that next time. Yeah. Yeah, because they're not up. So, that's the kind of that. Oh, you do have right. That's okay. Actually, what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Just drag that right in there.
So let's bring this back up. Looking for the insert where we did the function. There we go. Let me bring this down. Then I'll let you do that. Then I'm gonna kill the video. And post this. I'll try to comment briefly. You got it? All right, so real quickly, first thing to do is stop the video.